So I'm going to be bringing on a good friend of mine, fellow student of Torch, Alex Ebner. Alex, how are you?
Dan, I'm doing great. How are you?
Wait, hold on. I can't hear Alex.
Can you hear me now?
I cannot hear Alex. Hold on.
Oh, boy.
All right, now speak.
Hum a few bars. Torch is great.
All right, beautiful. Now I hear you.
Excellent.
Alex, Torch student, average rabbi, disciple, real estate agent extraordinaire who found me my home in the community, which is not an easy task at all. I appreciate you joining us. How are you?
I'm great, Dan, and genuinely thrilled to be here. Thank you very much for reaching out and inviting me to participate. I talk about Torch a lot behind the scenes, and I'm glad I can help, actually actively contribute to what you're doing here.
Thank you, Alex. So let's start, if you would just tell the audience sort of your story, how you got into contact with Torch and what initiated that relationship, and then how it sort of progressed over the years.
So I'm from Chicago, and I moved to Texas not knowing anybody in mid to late 2018.
Okay.
And let's see, I don't remember exactly what came first. I think I decided I would be a realtor once I got to town for various reasons. And the first time I heard of Torch, I was, and this is all related. The first time I heard of Torch, it was at my friend's birthday party. I met a guy who stuck out like a sore thumb. He was Orthodox. He was about my age, maybe late 20s, a couple years younger. And he was at this bar downtown Houston. Anyway, we started chatting, and I mentioned I was new to Houston. And he said he wasn't from Houston either, and that he loved the Jewish community there. Now, by that point, I hadn't really interacted with the Jewish community in Houston at all, which at that point in my growth as a Jew, it just wasn't really important to me. Although that very quickly changed. So anyway, I started chatting with this guy at the bar, and he mentioned that he had just had dinner at the house of this guy named Aryeh Wolbe. And I said, okay, tell me about that. And he said, he described this huge dinner with like 36 people, most of whom were just strangers who came in, not off the street, but word of mouth or from, whichever given shul, or they just went Shabbos hopping from table to table. Anyway, this guy was visiting from somewhere out of town, and he had been hosted so graciously by some guy named Aryeh Wolbe. And he said, Alex, whatever you do, you got to get in touch with this guy. And I said, oh, okay, whatever. I'll make a mental note of it. And then about a month later, of course, mental note means I'll forget about that right away. So about a month later, I was doing some research for work, again, real estate agent, and I needed to learn about the Eruv boundaries of Houston. And I said, okay, well, what's a good Jewish resource center in Houston? So I think I actually Googled Jewish Resource Center in Houston, and then of course,
do we pull up first?
Yeah, I believe you did. So I walked in. I found the address. It was right down the street from my office, and I was wearing a suit and a tie, my real estate agent name tag, and I was looking at the staff of Torch that I found online, and oh, this name Aryeh Wolbe, that looks familiar. Okay, whatever. So I walk in, and I had no idea what I was expecting to find. Probably something like a shul, but or a classroom, I don't know. So I walk in, and it's like a coffee lounge. There, a couple folks sitting reading. One guy running nervously in the background. He's, I found out later that it was one of the other rabbis who I won't mention. But anyway, so there's one guy in the corner making coffee, and he's got his hands full of paperwork, and he's clearly on his way to do something. But he sees me open the door, and he I don't know what went through his head. It was probably, wow, this guy looks lost and friendly. Let's go introduce myself. So that man comes up to me and he says, hi, I'm Rabbi Aryeh Wolbe. Are you new here? What can I do for you? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like all of these things just align. So he, I asked him if he had any time to chat, and I had brought a map so he could draw out the Eruv for me. And he said, you know what, unfortunately, I don't have any time right now, but would you like to get together for coffee tomorrow? I said, yeah, perfect. And deep down, well, yeah, I was very grateful for that for two reasons. One, I was getting what I came for, a map of the Eruv. And
Right.
two, I was, very quickly becoming involved in a Jewish community. I didn't know, nothing. I didn't know anything about the Jewish community in Houston, but it was reaching out to me as I would find the next day. So I met up with Rabbi Wolbe at a Starbucks the next day, or 2 days later, something like that, and he treated me like a friend, not a stranger, not a potential student, not someone who was there to do business, but a friend. So I remember vividly, I arrived at Starbucks a couple minutes before he did, and I watched him as he parked his car. He got out, he pulled up, he got out, he runs up to me, and he shows me he doesn't say, hi, how are you? He didn't introduce himself or anything like that. He pulls out his phone and said, look at this. I just got these great new photos of my family. This is my wife. This is my daughter. This is our house. And oh, this is like, and he's just showing me all these pictures. He didn't ask me how I was. He didn't say, oh, would you like to order coffee? There was no beginning of the conversation. He just jumped in. He was so excited to show me what was going on in his life. And it was hilarious. It was endearing. It was amazing. And from there, it's like we couldn't talk fast enough. I just had so many things to talk about. He told me all about the Eruv and all of that, but there was so much more we had to talk about, and we just didn't have enough time. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. He is one of those guys, when you meet him, there's no like gradual ramp up to a closeness of a relationship. It's just like, boom, you're right there from the beginning. Like you've been friends with him your entire life. And so how did that lead to where you ended up coming to a Torch class, I assume, here in the Torch Center? How did that evolve?
So one of the things the rabbi told me about was these huge dinners that he and the Rebbitzin have or had pre-COVID. And I thought to myself, this sounds just like my cousin Rochelle back in Chicago. She passed away a few years ago, but before that, she would just have an open door policy. The entire extended family. There were dozens of people. We were all related, and we all kind of knew each other in some way.
Right.
But she would just, she would adamantly just insist that her door was always open for Shabbos dinners. And it really built a community. And what Rabbi Wolbe was telling me about the way he hosted Shabbos dinners, it reminded me a lot of my cousin Rochelle growing up. And I said, wow, this is exactly what I want in a family, in a community. I'm coming to dinner. So
Right.
So I showed up the following week to dinner, and of course that was the one time in the in like the past 3 years or something like that when he wasn't hosting. So I a little embarrassing. But the following week I showed up, and just like that stranger at the birthday party told me, there were several dozen people there. Not everyone knew each other, et cetera, et cetera. But I sat down. We started dinner. He said the bruchas. And his wife, Zahava, is an incredible cook. And everything about it was just so warm. I felt like I was right. So your question, how did that get me involved in Torch? During the dinner, I don't know if it was the rabbi or the Rebbitzin or one of the several dozen people there, someone was talking about the classes that take place at Torch. And there was one that sounded particularly interesting. It was a Talmud class, Fridays at noon. And, being a real estate agent, my schedule was wide open. I said, okay, Friday noon, great. I'll call it networking. So I show up once, and I forgot what the subject was. You'll have to forgive me. But I think I started arguing with whatever the rabbi was talking about, because he invited that. He
Right.
wanted my actual opinion on what he was talking about. He's not the typical teacher. as in, this is the lesson plan today, and you're going to take notes, and you're going to remember, or you're going to memorize what I'm telling you. It's
Right.
It was more here, here's the theme, here are the lessons we're trying to learn. How does this relate to you, et cetera, et cetera. So of course that led to an argument. And he was great, and the entire class was great. It was a wonderful, loving discussion that we had. I said, okay, I can do this Fridays at noon. And so that was the beginning of my torch education.
Beautiful. Yeah, Torah is not something to learn passively. I guess there are sometimes, but especially when it comes to Talmud study, the rabbis want some interaction, and they want the questions, right? So that's awesome. So continue on with that story, because I know you are the star model in a lot of the Average Rabbi videos, and even on our promo, I saw you in there. So you eventually made a connection with Rabbi Busko when he moved to town and joined us. And I know you do a lot of learning with him as well, I believe.
Yeah, very much so. I'm very proud to call him not only my friend, but my teacher. When I say my rabbi, that's what I'm talking about. So I met Rabbi Chaim Busko at one of Rabbi Wolbe's huge dinners. And he said, "Hey, Alex, you see the redhead over there? He's new. Go talk to him. He's a new rabbi." And I don't know what I was thinking, but I said, "Okay, Rabbi, okay, Arya, I'm gonna give him a hard time. I'm gonna give him a headache. You sure it's okay?" He says, "Yeah, please, please go give him a headache, please." Right. So I forgot the first conversation that Chaim and I ever had, but I was probably asking him something really silly, like, is cereal soup? What would the Torah say about that? Or is a hot dog a sandwich? One of the dumb question. And I was expecting him to get frustrated and just I was trolling him.
Right, exactly.
I'm sorry?
No, exactly. But you didn't realize who you were dealing with, because he probably fed off those ridiculous questions in a very big way.
He beat me at my own game. Yeah. he gave me an amazing answer about why cereal is not soup. And then he said, the foundation of that argument is found in the Talmud, blah, 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 blah. And I started citing, not case law, but okay, wow, this guy knows his stuff.
Wait. Are you serious? There's a Talmudic source for why cereal is not soup? I guess there would be, right?
Talk to the rabbi.
Okay.
So he went with it. He beat me at my own game, and I said, this guy is actually very, very interesting, very entertaining. He's not just your average rabbi, lowercase a, average rabbi. I think one of the reasons I started getting along so well with Chaim right off the bat is because he is a Baal Tshuva. He was not raised Orthodox, but he found that path and dedicated his life to it. I was also not raised Orthodox. So in that light, he and I have that in common. And he can relate to, I think, everything that I have been through as a young man, as an aspiring, Jewish scholar. So he's already forged the path that I'm discovering more and more I want to take. I'm not saying I'll end up as a rabbi or anything like that, but when it comes to deepening my relationship with Judaism, my learning spiritually, intellectually, Chaim is the perfect resource for someone in my shoes.
Yeah, absolutely. It is
listening to this.
It is nice when they've already gone the path themselves from where you stand today, because it provides a lot of counsel and guidance when they've already walked through all those challenges before you get to them, and to get that guidance. I've experienced that as well.
Not only can he anticipate what my reaction is going to be to a situation or to a text we're studying, but I can relate to him much more than I can relate to other rabbis, to average rabbis, who have been, FFB, from birth. Chaim knows where my head is at, and it's not. If I was speaking to, for example, I don't know, Hasidic rabbi from Brooklyn or from Jerusalem, and needed to ask a question, I'll admit I would be a little intimidated. My thought would be, where do I start with this? I'm going to come off as such an idiot. I'm probably the only person in the world who doesn't know the answer to the question I'm about to ask.
Right.
And so it's a subconscious barrier to entry, or barrier I'm putting to my own growth. And I don't have that barrier with Chaim, because he himself started off where I am.
That's very true. Although I've seen with the many rabbis that learn with here that did grow up from birth, there's never any judgment. The questions are always encouraged, and they actually, I think, appreciate the fact that we had start from only growing up in a secular world. And they had that sort of advantage, if you will, in a way of growing up there. So, I think there's something to gain from rabbis that come from both those backgrounds. So, for the world, I thought you would be a great person to bring on and tell the world why they should support Torch. Make sure to exist for another year. Any sort of final wrap-up thoughts or comments that you can share with us?
Where do I start? I don't want to sound dramatic, and I'm sure it's nothing. Anything I could possibly say, I'm sure has already been said. Torch saves. No, Torch. I don't want to say Torch saves lives. Torch makes lives. It helps so many people. Wow, I should have rehearsed this or something.
I thought you were given, you got a movie line?
Chaim and I still joke around a lot. He tells me, if I'm ever at a loss for words, just quote movies that's, in at inappropriate times. So I'll quote the movie Independence Day or something, or give a motivational speech that has nothing to do with with what we're talking about. So thank you, but no thank you, average rabbi. Anyway, Torch makes lives. It is for everybody. If Torch were a synagogue or a place of worship specifically, then by definition, it would be exclusive of people who did not want to study at that level. For example, if I go to an Orthodox, I could only go to an Orthodox synagogue if I were Orthodox. If I were Reform, it wouldn't be for me, and and vice versa. But you're never going to find that conclusion with Torch. It wouldn't be for me. That's the case. Torch is for everybody, all walks of life, all levels of learning. I came in, I started my studies with the rabbis, as someone who's very, very ignorant. Of course, I still consider myself ignorant, but now I'm comfortable talking about it. And a lot of people there can relate to that, to being on my level, on your level, on the rabbis' levels. This isn't very eloquent. I apologize.
I thought it was beautiful.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
All right, keep going.
Oh no, I was going to ask if there are any other interesting topics you've covered with anybody else. I've only had a chance to listen to a couple minutes of this.
So yeah, I've had start off with a lot of the rabbis this morning, sort of telling the background and the story, and brought on Nate Tarlow, which you probably met before, from Egypt, and then a lot of the rest of the afternoon is just going to be more of a student speaking. But I really appreciate you coming on, providing your voice and some context to everyone on the impact Torch had on you. So thank you very much. I appreciate it, Alex.
Thank you, Dan. My pleasure. Anytime. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Take care. Bye.